let's look at the two ways that you can use Python. The first method is called interactive mode. So again, I'm going to log into the WebWorks server, which we're going to be using for Python. It turns out that on the WebWorks server you can use Python in two different ways, but for now, oops, well, that's a problem. I'm just going to show you the first method, which is called interactive mode. So to do that, type in Python 3, or actually you can just type in Python. That will put you in a version, I believe, 2.7 of Python. We want to use Python 3. The code is slightly different, and all the code I'm going to use is going to be for Python 3. So if you use Python 2, you're going to have to figure out some things on your own. Okay, so Python 3. When you do that, you will notice that it brings up this prompt, 3 greater than symbols, and that means that at that prompt you can type in Python commands. So it's got a little calculator built in. We can do 2 plus 3, and it will give us an output. We can ask it to print things. That's not terribly exciting. We ask it to print out 2, and it prints 2. We could ask it to print 4 plus 5, and it does the computation first. So 4 plus 5 is added together first and then goes into the function, which is the print command. We can print out text. This doesn't seem terribly exciting, but it does get better, I guess. So if we print 4 plus 5 as text, now we're going to get back 4 plus 5. So it doesn't treat 4 plus 5 as a number because it's inside the quotes. We can assign variables. So it can have x equal to 2, y equal to 3, and we can ask it for x plus y. We can print x, and we can print x times y. There is one thing that you should be aware of, and that is to do exponentiation, you use 2 asterisk symbols instead of using the caret, which is, I think, something we're more familiar with. I don't know why programming languages have started to do this, but there's another programming language, Perl, which does the exact same thing. Okay, so in interactive mode, you can type in a command and it immediately will give you a response. And as you saw above, when I did x equals 2, y equals 3, and x plus y, if there's no output from that command, so if I assign the variable, if I assign 2 to the variable x, that doesn't have an output. It's just making an assignment statement. Then there's no output to follow. I didn't get any output until I asked what x plus y was, and it took that as a question and printed out 5. And so you can string commands together. To get out of interactive mode, type quit. And there is one thing I want to notice, that if I go back into Python 3 and ask what x is, it says name x is not defined. So it's forgotten what x is. As soon as we exit, all the variables and anything that we've declared are cleared. Okay, so that's a simple way to use Python in interactive mode. You type in commands and it gives you an output. Python is what's called an interpreted language or a translated language. So it takes those commands, print or x equals 2, and runs it through its little runs it through the Python translator, translates that into a language, a machine language that your computer can understand, and then immediately gives you an output. That's different from a compiled language, where you type in commands and then you create a program, and that program is compiled into something that a machine can run, and then you can run that program at any time. As soon as we exit the translator, our program was gone, so the x's were no longer there. Okay, so that's in interactive mode. You can also execute Python in shell mode. To do that, I'm going to use something called Pycharm. We're going to talk about installing Pycharm. In order to do this on a Windows machine, you first have to install Python on your machine. So you have to download Python, then you download Pycharm, and it will automatically figure out where your Python is. I was pretty sure I got rid of this. I guess I didn't. That's actually not okay. So okay, so let's see if I got this working. So I'm going to open up Pycharm. And I'm going to create a new project. And I'm going to put it in, mine's going to be called Think Python, the title of our book. And I have chapter 1. Every time you open up Pycharm, it's going to give you some hints. You can choose to ignore those. Now, Pycharm works on projects. In order to create an actual Python file, we're going to have to add a file to this. So I come over here and add a Python file. I'm just going to call that chapter 1 again. Not very unique. That's okay. And now I have a place where I can actually write Python code. One piece of Python code you can put in is the author's name. The double underscore in front of author and after author that's a built-in command that's native, so Python knows that command is not a command that we've made up. We can make up our own commands, and oftentimes built-in commands have this double underscore around it just because that's not something that you would typically type. Okay, so we can type in the same commands that we typed in before, so we can do 2 plus 3. We can ask it to print. Well, let's just do this. Let's just do the 2 plus 3. And now I want to run this. So, run chapter 1. And it says process finished with exit code 0. What does that mean? It didn't do anything. It didn't save 5. Well, this is not in interactive mode. This is in script mode. So when you type 2 plus 3, it computes 5, but then you don't ask it to do anything with it. So it doesn't. It just computes 5, and then 5 is just sitting out there on a computer. If you actually want to see 2 plus 3, you have to ask it to print it. And now that I've actually ran this thing once from the run menu, now I have this green arrow down here, and I can just run it again, and now it prints out 5. I can also assign variables. X equals 2, y equals 3. Make a new variable, z equals x plus y. And you can ask it to print x plus y. or we could ask it to print Z. And you should know by now what's going to be the output of print with double quotes around the Z. And if I want to, I can do an exponent on it. So let's see, let's raise 2 to the 3rd power. And then we'll print out what W is. Okay. And then we'll save everything. Now, one of the advantages to using script mode is when you close this, it saves it. So I can close that out and then come back to, oops, double click, come back. In this case, it automatically reloads exactly what I was working on last time, and then it has the tip of the day, which, may not be that terribly useful. If you're a professional programmer, maybe it is.